Hey guys, how's it going? Recently I did a blog post all about the concept of regret and the ways in which it affects me within my life, and I thought that by writing a blog post about it I will sort of order my thoughts and be able to cope with it better. However, that's not exactly seemed to work, so I'm hoping that maybe talking about it will help me out. So this is going to be a bit of sort of a not serious but like mature Heather video, which is a very rare occurrence to actually happen. So yeah, this is like life advice with Heather. Ooh. The concept and the emotion of regret is something that I have had to deal with a lot throughout my life. Not because I do a ton of terrible things, don't get me wrong, but purely because my brain likes to really get hung up on little things which everyone else would just brush aside and forget about, whereas I live with this nagging feeling that this one small thing has made me a terrible person and will ruin my life and I can never be a good person because of it. And it often leads me to a lot of sort of sadness and crying and all that tragic stuff when I'm alone, because I just regret things and I feel so guilty over the smallest things. Like, I think it was about a year and a bit ago I knocked into someone and they didn't spill their drink or anything. I spilt my drink on my leg, and I think it took me something like longer than 2 seconds to apologise to them, and that, even just saying it out loud, I feel like such a terrible person for that, and just that regret and that guilt just consumes me alive on a daily basis. And hopefully I'm not, well, not hopefully I'm not the only person to feel that way, but hopefully that doesn't make me completely strange, because I've spoken to a few friends and they feel that way as well. And recently I've been trying to look into ways to sort of cope with it and deal with it, because living life full of regrets is a very difficult and sad and lonely way to live your life. Like, I think that some of the bad things I've done, for example knock into that person, means that I then just essentially shouldn't be happy because I probably ruined their day. I probably didn't, thinking about it logically, but in my head I just feel like I think I put myself through the whole self-punishment cycle of regret and guilt and all those sort of feelings, which is something that I shouldn't do and which you shouldn't do. So if you do react that way like I do, hopefully I can help you out a little bit. Hopefully. Otherwise we can just live in a world of regret together and not do anything with our lives. One thing I noticed when writing the blog post about this whole thing, which will be linked below by the way if you want to check that out, is that guilt and regret are two completely different things, which is something that I never really realised. I thought they were the same sort of emotion. Guilt is knowing you have committed a crime as such, or something unlawful, any element like that. It's knowing you should feel guilty about something as such, according to the dictionary. Whereas regret is just that feeling of sadness and regret about something that you have said or have done, or believe you have said or have done, which has caused offence in any way. That is more sort of the emotional side of it. Now, before I give advice, I do just need to say I'm not an expert. I'm just a loser in a Green Day hoodie, sat in a room, overheating. And yeah, this is just me on my personal experiences, so there's probably someone who can actually give decent life advice out there if you go and look. But hey ho, my advice is probably the first thing to do is think about the whole situation logically. Take some time out. Don't sort of rush into things. Don't let your brain overthink it. This is what my brain likes to do. You bump into a woman and then my brain is like, you've basically just, I don't even know, you've just punched that woman in the face, Heather. No, I haven't. I know I haven't. But at the time, that is what my brain goes into. It goes into this weird panic mode where everything's just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just did that. And it gets to this level of stress where I'm just like this, but in my head, like a little Heather in my head is just freaking the fuck out and doesn't know what's happening, because I've clearly just done something terrible, even though I just slightly knocked into a woman with my bag or something. So the first thing I'd say is take some time away from it, and then that leads on point 2, which is think about the situation logically. Doing a slight role reversal in your head might help you out a bit. This does with me. For example, if the roles were reversed and say a woman nudged into me with her bag, how would I react to that? I probably would just be like, no worries, I don't care, and move on with my life and probably not think about it, because it's happened before but I can never think of the time or who it was or anything like that. So, or if someone had said something to me and, I don't know, it upset me a little bit, would I suddenly think they're a terrible person? No, probably not. I'll probably forgive them. So I think it's also switching things around, because when you're trying to guess how people are reacting to things or feeling about things, your brain can blow it completely out of proportion to what it actually is. So if you maybe swap around and think, how would I react to that if it had happened to me, things will make a lot more sense, and it will stop, hopefully, that overthinking process. Thirdly, if you still feel guilty about something you did or you said to someone, for example, I've upset family members before, and you can't deal with that feeling of regret, because I know that some people can just deal with it and move on with their lives and ignore people, but I can't, just apologise. Say sorry if the way things are handled as such. I've had it before, I've got into arguments with family members because of our views, and me and them have very conflicting views with the world and all sort of topical elements, and then just other things. And I've never apologised for the views that I have, and they've never apologised for the views that they've had. But if it's ended up in a massive argument where things were said which really shouldn't have been, which is often me and my awful anger management skills, I just apologise for the way that I handled the situation. Also, I'd say it sort of links into another thing of just learning from your mistakes. I've had it before where, you know, I've drunk too much and got very argumentative and said some things I shouldn't have done, and as a result I now make sure I sort of manage what I drink a lot better. I think the time, sort of after that time where that situation happened, which I don't want to go into details with because I'll be a blubbering mess and it'll awaken too many demons, I stopped drinking for a bit because I felt like the drinking didn't help. So I think I went about 2 months completely no alcohol, and then I started to integrate it back into my life because I'm a terrible person. But yeah, it's sort of about learning from your mistakes and trying to change things, because here's the thing with regret, I think there is a certain level you can get to where it is still sort of reversible as such. But I think it's easier if you sort of learn from that mistake at the time. So if you did upset someone, then try and make that thing better. But if you keep letting it bubble over and then you keep upsetting people and keep upsetting them, when that regret hits you, it will really hit you. And I think that will make it a lot harder to deal with, because I've done that before and it's a really horrible feeling. So yeah, I'd say just deal with it. After you've taken your time out from the situation, then deal with it quickly. Don't let it ruin your life and your relationships for months on end, because it will just stop you being happy. So, and sometimes it is embarrassing, especially like with the argument. I'm terrible at apologising usually if I've had an argument with someone. But even if it's just a quick message on Facebook or a text or a phone call, or maybe meeting with them in person, it obviously depends on how you were with them before, but it really will help you sort of come to terms with things. I'd say the last thing, which is coming back to that woman who I knocked into, who you can tell it really plays on my mind because that happened like over a year ago and I'm still like feeling so guilty about that. So if she ever finds this video, I am so sorry for knocking into you. But if it is an accident, accept the fact that it's an accident. It wasn't intentional. I didn't go around swinging my bag about like, I'm going to knock this woman over and really hurt her. I mean, I didn't even knock her over. It was an accident and I got really hung up on that fact. But then, yeah, it was an accident. That's what it was. It wasn't intentional, and I like act as, in my head, my brain sort of thinks of it as I intentionally did that, but I didn't. It was an accident. She wasn't even injured. Literally, I just like knocked into her and spilled my drink down myself. So really, I should apologise to myself because I wasted like half a pint down a new dress, I think it was, as well, to make it worse. As a whole, they are my top tips. I don't know how much they are actually helpful. I feel like I just blabbered on a bit and kept awakening demons within my own head about things that I regret, so I'm going to go send a bunch of apologies out to people. Probably as a final thought, I would say just remember to forgive yourself. the thing is, the past is past for a reason, and you shouldn't let that ruin your present time. I think it was Natalie who once had as a MSN status thing. So if anyone remembers MSN, you'll know how old I am. It was something along the lines of, the past is the past, so leave it there. The future's unknown, so don't think about it. And the present's a gift. That's why it's called present, or something like that. I don't know, it was MSN, it was years ago. It was one of those sort of quotes that all the Tumblr girls now would put out. And I think that's what I'm thinking about. The past is the past. That doesn't mean you can be a dick in it. Try and make things better, and regret is a lot easier to deal with when you come to terms with situations, and don't just let them boil away in your head.